One of the most common questions consultants get asked by their friends and family is, "So, what do you actually do for a living?" And it's definitely something I've had trouble explaining in the past, so I thought I'd take a few minutes and give a quick rundown of what consulting actually is. The core operating model of consulting involves dropping a bunch of MBA grads from top tier schools off at a client and applying them to solve a problem that the client would otherwise be unable to solve by themselves. Oftentimes, the more junior consultants on a project will have little to no context about the industry that the client operates in, but that's usually not an issue because neither does the client. Now, one of the toughest barriers to entry in consulting is the interview process, which usually consists of a rigorous series of behavioral and case questions. Behavioral questions are generally meant to test to see if someone would be a good fit for the firm. Just as an example, it's rumored that if you wear a blue gingham shirt to a Deloitte interview and greet the interviewer by saying "Deloitte to meet you," you're automatically given a verbal offer on the spot. On the other hand, case interviews are meant to test a candidate's logical problem-solving ability and their ability to create innovative solutions to challenging problems. This is, of course, in no way related to what you'll be doing as a consultant, because 90% of the time you'll be frantically trying to backsolve for a way to achieve a random number that your managing director told the client was totally doable based on industry benchmarks that are over 20 years old. Now, once you've been onboarded into a firm, you're going to want to get staffed on a project. Projects generally fall into one of two buckets: those that are great learning opportunities and projects that are actually good. People will often use the term great learning opportunity to describe a variety of things that no one ever wants to work on, such as due diligence and PMO. Out of all the great learning opportunities, though, proposal writing is probably the worst, not because it's boring or tedious, but because it's not billable. If you're not sure whether to take a project on or not, just remember, if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is, and your best bet is to check in with somebody who's already staffed on the project just to make sure that it's not a trap. The body of work that consultants are responsible for delivering is outlined in a document called the Statement of Work, also called an SOW. If you're ever wondering what the deliverables are, they can be found in the SOW. Curious about project timelines and phases? Check the SOW. Wondering why you're constantly overworked and why your team feels consistently understaffed? You guessed it, it's in the SOW. Now, while it would seem like the SOW is the be-all end-all of the project scope, that's rarely ever the case. It's customary for the client to demand egregiously out-of-scope work to be done, but not to worry, your partner or managing director will push back on the client and get the project back on track. Just kidding, your partner went on vacation right after the kickoff meeting and your MD is immediately going to cave into the client's demands to keep the money bags coming in. So once you're staffed on a project, you quickly notice that you have no idea what's going on. And that's okay, because again, neither does the client. The day-to-day when you're staffed on a project is fairly simple. You'll spend 10 to 15 hours a day in PowerPoint making slides, most of which will be shoved in the appendix and will never see the light of day. Another key tool you'll find yourself using a lot is Excel, which, despite being listed as a core proficiency on your resume, you'll have little to no experience in, and will be snubbed by the cool kids when they see you using a mouse. Eventually, after working 80 hours a week for years on end, most consultants will experience some form of burnout. Most consulting firms actively work to try to prevent this by offering mental health webinars, counseling resources, and the occasional pizza party. At this point, many consultants reach an inflection point in their careers and start to look for exit opportunities. Some choose to exit the industry, some try to start their own businesses, and others switch to day trading and YOLO their entire life savings on stock with questionable fundamentals. Still, there are those who stick it out and climb through the ranks. In my opinion, each of these are perfectly viable options, but each has its own distinct advantages and disadvantages. If you choose to exit the industry, you might find yourself living an easier life. But on the other hand, you'd essentially be working at a client, where their epic day-to-day struggle is figuring out how to rotate PDFs. Day trading might sound appealing, but there's always the looming prospect of losing $500K in options trading and being forced to move back in with your parents who will spend every waking moment complaining about how you should have gone to medical school. And lastly, and perhaps the grimmest fate of all, lies with those who decide to continue down the path of consultancy, ever destined to become the thing that they so hated most. But as the saying goes, 'tis better to give than to receive. And at least now, you'll be the one sending out the please fix emails, rather than the one getting them.